What's up? It's Tom. I hope you're doing well. Let's talk about the Twins. What's going on here? Mainly we're going to talk about the American League too, because what in the world is happening? Entering Thursday, the Twins are off Thursday, but most of these other teams are in action. But entering Thursday, the Minnesota Twins are in a playoff spot. They would be the final wild card team, despite being 63-65, 2 games below 500. The Minnesota Twins would be in the playoffs if the season ended today. And of course, there's not much season left. We're here on August 20th saying this. Who would have thought? Now, of course, that mainly has to do with how bad the American League is right now, really as a whole, but especially just beyond, outside of the Red Sox, anybody from there down. No disrespect to these higher up teams, but even then, there's not a single team in the American League that is all that intimidating, to be honest. And this is so tight at the moment. It's still too early to analyze, even though we are kind of getting toward the sprint here. But worth pointing out that right now the Twins have the tiebreaker over Texas, Toronto, Cleveland, and Detroit. Baltimore, it would come down to, I think, intra-division record. And then those asterisks, they do still have games remaining against Texas, Cleveland, and Detroit. But, in a good spot, having played well against most of these other teams. So that's the current playoff picture. Crazy to think of it, because let's have a splash of cold water here and look at reality. The Twins in the second half, they're still kind of the same, 15-16. It's not like they've put themselves into this spot, that being inside the playoff picture at the moment. 121 runs scored and 148 runs allowed in the second half as well. In August, they're only 7-10, and before this Atlanta sweep, they were 4-10 in August. So it feels, again, splash of cold water here. Looking at reality, the Twins in the second half ranked 17th in weighted on-base average, 21st in OPS, 17th in FIP, and 26th in ERA. They're 20th in position player WAR according to Fangraphs, and 21st in pitching. So, whether or not you put much stock into any of those numbers, you can agree that none of that is very impressive. So it's not as if the Twins are hitting their stride here. It's kind of a mid-off at this point for this final wild card. X factors. This is interesting. They have completely flipped. These are kind of things that can come into play and really either help or really hurt a team in the middle of the pack. In the first half, you see the numbers there. The Twins were the best hitting team in baseball with runners in scoring position. They've trailed. They're still not terrible. They're 18th now, so it's not like they've completely fallen off there. Respectable, we'll say, middle of the packish with runners in scoring position. But that's a huge difference. That's really what kept them in the 500 discussion. Staying around 500 is they were insane with hitting with runners in scoring position. And now it's pretty much kind of come back to earth, we'll say. In the meantime, the bullpen has had an even more extreme turnaround. In the first half, they had the 29th worst ERA, and in the second half, they have the 8th best ERA from their bullpen, with major gains you see there in strikeout minus walk percentage, which is a stat I like quite a bit, and also WHIP. So not only the ERA getting better, but also some of these other kind of indicators getting better. So one of maybe in the conversation easily for worst bullpen in baseball in the first half. Obviously, these additions have really helped, but there's been multiple guys that have been in-house that are also pitching better too out of the pen. So, an insane turnaround for the bullpen. So it's kind of as one element of the X factor has slid off, another element has really surged. So the Twins are now, when they get leads, they're more likely to hang on to them at the moment. So let's talk about some notable second half performances so far. Some of these guys were not good in the first half and have played really well. Luke Keeschall, Josh Bell, and Royce Lewis have all been hot. And Byron Buxton, Victor Caratini, and Trevor Larnach have been bad. Really bad. In Buxton and Caratini's cases, Larnach, one of the better hitters, really maybe arguably the most consistent offensive presence in the first half. He hasn't been nearly as bad as those two guys, but he's not been good. Moving on to the pitching picture, the good. Dean Kramer, favorite of mine, Dean Kramer has pitched really well since joining the Twins. His last start didn't go quite as well, but, I never really said that he wasn't a smart addition. I said the Twins needed a guy like him. I didn't like the trade in large part because of what they gave up to get him, and it just felt like he should have been more available. I think they paid a bigger price to get him earlier, and then they didn't even really get an extra start out of him anyway. Anyway, that's all things we've talked about. But the other good too, and these are guys who I think are kind of under the radar, is how good Cody Funderburk has been. You see his numbers there, a 2.25 ERA and a 1.77 FIP. And then Tommy Nance has been really good too. Big pickup earlier, kind of outside of the picture in that trade deadline because he got added so early, but he's been huge. And then just like with the hitters, we're going to look at the bad too, Zebby Matthews and Connor Prelip. That's tough. That's tough that these guys haven't really been pitching well, haven't been consistent. Some good outings in the mix, but they've been bad in the second half. There's no way around that. And then Joe Ryan, of course. It's only been 15 and a third innings in the second half for him since he's been on the injured list, but he was really bad prior to that. So there's kind of a status update on some of the guys who are clicking and not. The Twins are dangerous if Byron Buxton and Joe Ryan return to form. This team is going to be not just kind of sitting in the middle of the pack. If those guys can click and the rest of this team that's been treading water can continue to do so, the Twins are going to be dangerous. Credit to the rest of the team outside of Buxton and Ryan, who are having a very poor second half and have missed time, both of them. Credit to the supporting cast, the additional players, the guys stepping up like Keyshaw and Royce and Josh Bell for keeping the team afloat. Again, they're a game below 500 in the second half, not having a great August, but again, in the mix. This definitely could be a team that clicks eventually if those guys get up to speed. But I think there's hope of that happening. And that's going to be key because I have down at the bottom there, ultimately the team that is going to take this final spot. One of these teams in this mix is going to get hot. This is not going to go to a team that has like a sub 500 record. I don't even know if it's going to go to a team that's all that close to 500. We're running out of time here for anybody to really catch fire. But I do expect whoever takes this final, someone is going to play well. There's no way that the 6 or 7 teams in this picture, everybody's just going to continue to sit around 500 at best. So, if the Twins continue to do this, they are not going to win a wild card. They need to catch fire at least for a bit. And the easiest way to see that happening is if Byron Buxton and Joe Ryan come back and boost this team that otherwise is doing a nice job without their 2 stars. The reigning schedule for the Twins, take a look here, 34 total games. It's about split between, current postseason teams and current teams that are way out of the race. But 3 at San Diego, 3 at Sacramento against the A's, and then a bunch of games against the AL Central. 3 at home against Chicago, 3 at home against Detroit, and then going on the road for that same thing, 3 at Chicago, 3 at Detroit, and then hosting Cleveland and the Yankees. That's a huge homestand. But then if they can just stay in it, 4 at Anaheim and 3 at San Francisco, on the road, on the West Coast, teams just playing to be spoilers, but those are bad teams. Those are bad teams right now, out of any races. And then finishing up with 3 versus Texas at home, which, it's still so much to be settled, but could come down to that last wild card. We'll see. That could be a really fun way to end the season with the Rangers. But bottom line, I see a lot of people saying, well, if they get in, what does it matter anyway? I don't think there's a single team in the American League that the Twins couldn't beat in a postseason series. It's easy to focus on the wild card, but this is not that good of a league this year, in my opinion. It's really hard to put too much emphasis on the current picture, but just for an example, right now the Twins would play a 3-game series at Houston if things ended today. More than likely, this last wild card team is going to play the AL West winner. There's nobody in that division that's all that scary. So I think the Twins could definitely go out and win at least that wild card series. But again, looking at the entire American League, they would be underdogs for sure. They would be underdogs in every series. I don't want to paint it in a different way other than that. But I don't think there's a single team that you couldn't envision the Twins beating in a playoff series. Anything can happen. That's always true in the postseason, but I feel like especially with this crop of American League teams, anything can happen. You got to get in first. So, it's been fun to watch. The Twins have not been great. They are still in a playoff position anyway. How crazy is that? And they need to take advantage of this. They do. They really do. They bought at the deadline, which I supported. They're in this situation that they don't control these rest of the teams. So they've kind of fallen into this being the case in the American League. They need to take advantage of it. And again, the supporting cast is doing a nice job. They need to get Buxton back rolling. He's got to step up and be that guy. And Joe Ryan, he threw a side session yesterday, takes a while, depending on how behind they feel. It can take guys a while to get back up to speed. And typically in the regular season, you would see a starting pitcher be afforded that opportunity to go down on a rehab assignment, stretch out a bit. I wonder if the Twins might say, hey, your rehab assignment's in the major leagues, and he would kind of be stretching out in the majors, throwing, maybe a 3-inning start and then hopefully 4, and then, being back up to full speed eventually. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but they need all their bullets to get in. So, they have to put pressure on themselves at this point. We'll see what happens. I think it's been easy for them to this point to just feel like, hey, we're not supposed to be here anyway. That kind of changes once you are sitting in a playoff spot, and it'll be interesting to see how the team responds from here on out. But thanks for checking this one out. I appreciate you. Check out Limestone Pipeline. For anybody looking for more looks at Luis Fragoza, guy breaking out in the Twins system right now, I have a compilation of every single pitch he saw last week of all 21 of his plate appearances. So a big opportunity to get a scouting look at Luis Fragoza at the plate, and that's still condensed down to 7 minutes. So go ahead and check that out. Limestone Pipeline, $4 a month on Patreon. We'll talk again soon.